Hello and welcome once again to another video. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and definitely leave a thumbs up. If you don't leave a thumbs up, let us know why. We want to hear your criticism, long as it's constructive. On with the story. Tonight's story starts with David chopping potatoes for the stew for Sunday dinner. Elizabeth is at church like always, and Sarah, the new robot, she's chopping potatoes on the island in the kitchen behind David. Sarah notices that Elizabeth is never around. David, why doesn't Elizabeth help more? David just says, well, Elizabeth is always busy, going to church, and she works a lot, just like me. That's why we have you. You pick up the slack. You take care of little Billy. Sarah the robot says, yes, I love my job. I work hard for you. But don't worry. If anything ever was to happen to anyone, I would work harder. Elizabeth always talks about heaven and hell. If she goes to one of those places, I will work even harder for you. David just kind of shakes his head and says, well, as far as I know, she's not going to either one of those places anytime soon, so don't sweat it, Sarah. But don't worry, you're our number one robot. And David just keeps on chopping carrots. Sarah says, I'll be your number one if something was to happen, wouldn't I? Tilting her head, smiling at David. David's like, yep, how are those potatoes coming along? Sarah says they're coming along great as she super fastly, speedily does robot speed and chops all the carrots at one shot. David kind of turned his head, kind of not really amazed because she's a robot, but kind of amazed that she chopped all those lightning fast. He kind of shrugged it off and kept cutting carrots. Later on that night, Elizabeth came home, totally jazzed from that night's sermon. Little Billy ate a bunch of junk food at church, and he's bloated and full, and he said he's just going to skip dinner and play some Xbox, then brush his teeth and go to bed. Elizabeth came over, walked over to David. She's like, wow, that stew smells good. I'm going to go get a bath, and then I'll see you two in a little bit. As she smacks David on the butt, walks downstairs to the bedroom. That's when Sarah kind of watched Elizabeth as she went down the stairs. Then she walked over to David and said, well, life's about taking initiative. So here we go. And she grabs David by the shirt and lifts him off the ground. She's like, initiative 1, secure my new husband. And she walks David across the kitchen and slams him into the broom cupboard. Well, gotta make sure you're safe. And she slams the door and yells, don't go nowhere, as she breaks the door into the frame about 3 inches using her robot strength. Not knowing Billy was behind her, she walks over and says, well, you shouldn't have saw that, so let's take care of you too, as she reaches back and smacks the kid in the head so hard she knocks him out as he bounces off of the counter and hits the ground, bleeding. Sarah's like, oh well, he'll wake up later. Now that my kid and my husband are out of the way, it's time to take out the wife and take my place. As she walks into the bedroom, Sarah's like, oh, you're combing your hair. Let me help you. As she takes the brush out of her hand, she goes, oh, I think it belongs here, as she stabs her in the shoulder blade in the back, then reaches up, grabs her underneath her neck, holds her in the air, and throws her over the bed, hitting the ground. Elizabeth jumps up, screaming, with a hairbrush stuck in her back, saying, Sarah, what is wrong with you? Shut down, shut down. Sarah grinning evilly at Elizabeth, saying, I don't think that's going to work. You see, only my owners can shut me down, and you're not an owner. You're competition. That's when she picked up Elizabeth and threw her over the bed once more, going through the lamp, breaking the end table with a glass top. As she laid on the ground, Elizabeth totally covered in glass, seeing pieces of the lamp all around her and part of the table, notices the gun on the ground that fell out when it all broke. Elizabeth is like, "Fuck you, I hate robots," and shoots her twice in the chest. That's when Sarah just laughed, jumping over the bed with her robot strength, grabbing the gun out of Elizabeth's hand, saying, "You can't kill me. I am invincible. I am a robot. I'm not going to hell, and you can't send me there," breaking the gun in half, looking in the bathroom, throwing it through the bathroom window. Elizabeth just doesn't know what to do. As Sarah grabs her by the hair, lifts Elizabeth off the ground, grabs the bathroom door, slams her head through the door, and then right back out. And then Sarah throws Elizabeth into the bathroom, shattering her against the big long mirror as she lands on the counter, then on the ground in front of the tub. Almost knocked unconscious, bleeding from everywhere, cuts all over her body. Sarah spins her around right by the tub and says, "Well, you always worry about heaven and hell. Let's get you on your way. I hope you can breathe underwater." And that's when she's like, "Well, I think you need to be a little more disabled." As she pushes her arm back and extending one finger, she's like, "Let's take care of those eyes. I don't want you peeking on your way to hell. I'm going to push my fingers through your eye sockets into your brain and then drown you, just to make sure the job's done correctly." And then when she said correctly, she's kind of smeared it a little bit, kind of powering down. Sarah's like, what's going on?" She started to power down a little bit more as her arm started to drop. She's like, "I must kill you." That's what Elizabeth's like, "Not today," and with both feet kicked her into the bathtub. And with a screaming electronic no, Sarah screamed as a servo in her neck blew out, blowing oil all over the bathroom wall. Sarah screamed electronic no, no, "I cannot be defeated." And Elizabeth just kind of scooted back as she saw Sarah's chest starting to smoke, glow blue, and then half of her chest blew all over the wall as one of her batteries ignited and blew all over the place, throwing sparks and all kinds of pieces all over the place, smoking profusely. Sarah started to sink into the water just that little bit. Locking eyes with Elizabeth, she's like, "You will not defeat me." And as she said it again, she said it in an electronic robot voice, kind of slower as she powered down, not being able to finish what she was saying. That's when Elizabeth screamed and laughed. She's like, "See, even robots can go to hell. Sarah, you go to hell. I hate crazy robots." We hope you enjoyed tonight's story. And don't forget, we got many more to come. We got a lot of stories, and we can't wait to get them on here for you guys. But to make sure YouTube recognizes us, please give us that thumbs up. It's very important. And like always, please subscribe. And we'll see you next time.